Meg Price Audio. Hear it, feel it, know it.
Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Brad Swift, also known as Orrin Jason Bradford, and I am here today with a wonderful person, Meg Price, who is my new audio book extraordinaire. And I do mean extraordinaire because we've had a great time recording a new book that will be coming out. It's actually one of my personal favorites. I wrote it, I like it, and I'm looking forward to it being in audiobook format. And the title of it is Babble. So we'll be looking for that probably the first to middle part of July when it'll be coming out. So I'm going to ask Meg, well, let me just first give you an opportunity to say hi to whoever's listening today.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Meg Price. I've been doing audio recording for a little while now. Basically grew up around it. But I'm excited to do this interview today, so we can go ahead and start with the questions.
Yeah, I figure since she's a narrator, I should let her occasionally here. So
just maybe.
Exactly. Okay. Well, you kind of touched on my first question. What led you to become a professional narrator? Again, particularly with a focus on audiobook narration itself.
Sure. So I guess we can do a little bit of a backstory. Both of my parents have been recording since I was, like in the womb. And they have their own recording studio back in Virginia, where I'm from. I'm in Illinois now. And so I just grew up around it. Some of my fondest memories are sitting in the recording studio with my mom, having headphones on and listening to her go, press 1 for blah, blah, blah. So I grew up around it, and, I learned how to do it here and there. From my dad, he would show me, or I'd help out my parents when they're like, I need help recording. And I'm like, okay. So I got out of that. I did acting in high school and college for a little bit, so I've got a theater background. And then once I came out of that, started trying to do the real world thing, and I was at jobs I didn't like, didn't want to do. And I was sitting there at one specifically, and I started listening to audiobooks because I had always enjoyed them anyway, and it came to me, divine something or other, I guess, that I was like, wait a minute, I can do that. I have a good voice. I know how to record. And that's kind of sort of how I got into it. Just saying, you know what? I've got a good voice. I know how to record. It's in my background. I might as well just start. And then this wonderful man took a chance on me, and here we are.
We connected through fantastic service, ACX, which where you can go to ACX if you're an author or a narrator and get connected, and that's exactly how we got connected. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to know, since you've done audiobooks and you finished, we've actually finished the recording process of Babble itself. What do you find to be the most challenging part of narrating a complete book like that?
Well, really the most challenging part, I guess, is when you have bad days. The actual process itself, I don't particularly find very difficult. You're recording as long as you know how to read fairly well and know how to add, I guess, inflection to it. It's not a difficult process along with the editing. You're just deleting and copying and pasting, so it's not anything like music production where you add a whole bunch of things. So that part's not difficult, but it's the bad days that are the difficult part, where you have a day and your brain is just like it's just not there. You're trying to read words and it's like and that's literally how it comes out. Or you have to do a sentence like 5 times over because the words just won't come out, or you can't get the breath in the correct way, so you either run out of air or you're breathing way too much and it sounds really choppy. Or your mouth is super dry, which mine is inherently dry anyway, and which I did not know till I started recording. And it's, then
we know from the political world how devastating it can be, when your mouth is too dry and your water is way over somewhere else, So,
well, and also hard part about it is, for me, water doesn't help. Yeah, it's been a very interesting process trying to figure out. I mean, I hope you can't really tell the difference between the first couple of chapters and the ending chapters, how my mouth sounds. But I tried water for a while. That didn't work. I tried Gatorade. That helped a little bit, but not much. And then what I finally found, my mother swears by Smarties. I find that those were not enough for me, but so Sour Patch Kids are my best friends. So I'll sit there in between takes just sucking on Sour Patch Kids.
Okay. Sour Patch Kids I'm familiar with. What's a Smarties? My wife calls me from time to time.
They're the little candies, little Smartie candies that are like, oh, I don't know how to explain them.
Okay, but they're candies.
Yeah, they're little, like, tart little candies. You like chew on. Or suck on a little bit, I guess. Good. I don't know. Good.
Well, at least you didn't answer this. Well, the toughest, most challenging part of audio narration is putting up with the author. So you're good.
No.
And this is the lead-in. What is the most important aspect of audiobook narration itself?
Let's see.
So
far, I think the most rewarding is getting to tell the story. Oops, I haven't clicked over to myself so people can't really see me. Now you can see me. It's the telling of the story. It's the bringing the words to life. It's the making the characters come alive. It's becoming those characters. And it's almost more rewarding to me, I guess, than being on stage. Because being on stage, you get to be that one character, which is nice. But I get to be multiple when I'm doing an audiobook, and I think that's kind of fun.
We were just talking the other day when we were meeting about this, that I live close to the Flat Rock Playhouse, and every now and then there'll be a play there where there'll be one actor playing multiple roles, and I'm thinking, well, that's what you have. On every book, you have all these different, books. If you look back, behind me here, that those are and that's not all of them. That's the major characters of Babble, and you had to be all of those itself. So, how do you get into the various characters, especially when there are as many as there are in Babble?
Well, it's easy with the main characters. Once you get used to those, you get embody those. I can flip into them, like Bobby and Angie and Inez. Those are fairly easy that I could go into without much prep behind it, without much work. But a lot of it does have to do with preparation. I mean, I go through and mark my scripts, and I underline in specific color codes, like who gets what color. Like Inez had a blue color. Angie was purple, Bobby was black. I would go through and mark all of them. So even if because part of it, you have to read ahead to see where you're going. So you're reading words out loud while reading ahead. So I needed to make sure that even if I didn't get to the end of the sentence in time, that I know who it was that's talking. So I'm not like, who's talking? How do I get to that? But it becomes more challenging when I am in a multiple character scene with a whole bunch of minor characters. Because then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, who's what? Who is this again? Or if it's a character that was introduced a really long time ago and then they came back in. Because then I'm like, oh, what did they sound like? How did they do that? What was that? So then I have to.
Do you ever go back? Do you ever go back and listen to yourself being that character so that you're staying consistent with that?
I do, yeah, a lot of the time. Especially if it's been a couple of days in between recording. So if I did one thing and then I had to go do other things before I got back to recording again, I'll be like, that didn't sound right. I'll try and do it all one off just to make my life easier, and then I'm like, I always forget it after the fact, and I'm like, no, that didn't sound right. Let's try that again. So yeah, I do end up going back. And another thing I also do is the chapters that I've decided to record for that day, I will rearrange the pages so that all of the characters are staying consistent that I'm going through. So I'm doing a chunk of Angie, and then I'm doing a chunk of Inez, and then I'll do a chunk of Bobby, because those are all very different, and it's hard between the chunks to flip back out, especially with the Bobby parts, because his narration is different. So I like to keep them all chunked together to make my life and my brain easier.
Wow. That makes sense. I never would have thought about doing that. I would have thought you would have tried to keep bouncing back and forth, and I always thought that would be really challenging. Really be, reading Arnaz, but you're reading Arnaz in Bobby's voice. It's like, oh gosh, now I got to go back. So that's one way to avoid that itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of answered this other question, but I want to see if there's anything else you want to add. Could you share a bit of what it's been like narrating this particular book, Babble itself? This is book one of what is, at least at this point, intended to be a 3-part series, a cosmic conspiracy series. What's this been like narrating Babble?
Well, it's been awesome, I'll be honest. I mean, it's a great story. I really enjoy the story. I liked it when I read it. But now, really delving into the characters and really getting to know everyone in there, I mean, it's like they became my own little family, because I didn't really have time to talk to anyone else, so I was there. Besides you, I was pretty much talking to the characters, and I was being with them, so it's been great. Trying to look at my notes here. What else did I say? Oh, it was a process at the beginning. Trying to get into the flow and making sure I had that flow of, okay, how many can I actually record in one day? How much can my voice handle? How much can I edit in one day? Trying to figure out all of that. That was a process at the beginning, especially because I also switched mics at the beginning. So I ended up having to record 2 different, actually no, it was chapters 1, 2, and 3 I had to record a second time. So that was a struggle. I'm very much a J on the whatever they're called, the personality things. And once I have a thing complete, I like to move on. I don't like to go back. So that was a struggle. But then once I got into it was fairly easy. I knew I could get 3, maybe 4 chapters a day. I could probably edit about 2, just depending upon how long the chapters were. So once I got in the schedule, it was smooth sailing.
So part of what you learn from the process is what your limits are, and as far as how much of both the recording and the narrating you can do. Is there any other particular aspects that you learned from narrating this particular book?
I learned that I should probably give myself a little more time than I gave myself. Recording 320 plus pages in, I think, a little under 6 weeks was a little stressful. So I would definitely.
You broke up for just a second on that. Say again. How much did you have to cover in what time frame?
I did 320 pages plus. I think it's 300, maybe 30. And I did it in a little under 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It definitely flew by, that is for sure. I got to it, I'm going, oh, wait a minute.
All right. And great character. Don't worry, I made sure all the characters, got the pictures here, but I made sure they weren't in another room so you wouldn't hurt their feelings. Who's your favorite character or characters, and why?
I mean, I loved all of... Okay, I loved most of them. You made some not very nice characters that I wasn't a huge fan of. I think Angie's my favorite, for sure. Only because I feel like I identify with her a little bit more than all of the other ones. She wasn't a stretch to play, for sure. She's got a really quiet strength to her. And she's all about taking care of her son. And she won't let anything get in her way. And I really admire and would love to be that kind of person. So I think that's why I like her the most.
Angie is partly, oftentimes your writers say, their characters are either part of themselves or somebody they know. Angie, a big part of Angie is my mother. My mother loved me for many years now, but when growing up, she pretty much raised two sons, two Hellions. From the age I was, I think, 7. My brother was maybe 10 when my dad passed away, and there was never another. She never remarried, and so she was the father and the son of both of us. The father and the mother of both of us, and so she was that kind of mama bear. If anybody, started messing with either one of her sons, oh, it's too bad because here she comes, So, good. Well, what's next? I'm going to ask you in just a moment, how other authors or other people can get in touch with you. But before we do that, I'd just like, do you care to just share a little bit about what's our next? What we can talk doing beyond Babble?
Oh, you froze there a little bit, but I can explain with my answering. So what's next is I'm going to start a YouTube series where I will read either short stories or sections of a story, starting with the Fantastic Fables of Foster Flat, which Mr. Sir over there wrote, which is just a cute little story, and I am so excited to start that, which that'll begin at the end of June. So we're starting that pretty soon, so make sure to go over to my YouTube channel, Meg Price Audio, like and subscribe, and you'll get updates for those. And then if you're authors that want, me to read something as well, I can do that, and you can contact me. So that's what's next, and then whatever stories you have for me.
Yes, very good. Yes, I'm hard at work in the storming stage of Babble, which would be book 2 of Babble, and I love that we had this opportunity, to for you to narrate Babble, because that has gotten me thinking about what characters and what they already sound like, because I hear them now as your voices, and
you have my voice in your head.
Yes, exactly, and so that's. I'm certainly hopeful that will be in the works, before. As far as Foster Flat, those stories are kind of a homage, as I think of it, to two things that had a real influence on my own writing growing up. One was Ray Bradbury. I always loved Ray Bradbury's books and how he had a book, but with kind of interrelated, short stories, which is how Fantastic Fables.
Oh, you're falling.
Wow! We just had an earthquake here.
Oh, did you? Is that what it was?
Something gave right back there. Continue. And also the other part was the Twilight Zone. I love the Twilight Zone. Rod Serling's Twilight Zone. I know I'm aging myself here, but that too was part of what Fantastic Fable was about. So the other things that we're doing in preparation, besides repairing my wall back here later, we're between the dates of June the 18th to June the 25th of 2018, we're going to be doing a poll, because Meg recorded 3 samples taken directly from Babble, and we want you to help us choose the best audio sample. When you go to Audible or any of the other places, you get a sample. It's usually about 4 or 5 minutes, and so you can listen to it and know, at the end of that, whether this is really something that you want to go ahead and take a chance with. So if you go down to the bottom of the YouTube channel here, you'll see a link to where you can go and vote for, listen to them. You can actually listen to them here on the page, YouTube channel page, and then go and vote. And each time you vote for whichever one you think would be best. That will also count towards the second thing that we'll be doing, which is running a contest. And we'll be running the contest for about the next month itself. And the contest, the first prize for the contest, there will be a drawing, is a Kindle Fire, a 7-inch reader, plus you'll get a ebook and an audiobook edition of Babble, and there'll be 5 contests as well, which will be Babble in both the ebook and the audiobook format itself. So again, all that will be running for the next month, and you can find all the information down in the notes down below this page itself. So anything else you want to share before we end the call today?
No, I think I'm good. I just want people to know it's an awesome story, and I had so much fun working on it and working with you, and I think that everyone should take a chance, like you said, and take a listen to Babble.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, I'm going to go repair my wall here, and hope to see you and Meg.
Alrighty.
All right, thanks.